High up on a volcano hill on the island of St. Kitts, a silent guard stands watch. This is Brimstone Hill Fortress, a fort made of stone and full of history. Its old walls whisper stories of fights between countries, of empires won and lost. The fort, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, shows us a peek into a wild past and a beautiful view of the Caribbean Sea. This is the story of Brimstone Hill, a place where history comes alive. From its high spot, Brimstone Hill has seen centuries of change. The blue waters around St. Kitts have seen explorers arrive, empires fight, and nations be born. The fort itself shows how ambitious and cruel colonialism was. It's a place where the sounds of cannons mix with the whispers of enslaved Africans who worked hard to build it. Brimstone Hill Fortress is more than just old ruins. It's a living museum. It's a place where visitors can walk where soldiers, slaves, and settlers walked. They can explore the walls, look through the gun holes, and imagine the loud cannons during a battle. The fort reminds us of the past, shows how strong people can be, and proves how powerful the human spirit is. The story of Brimstone Hill Fortress starts in the late 1600s. European countries, wanting land and treasure, were fighting for control of the Caribbean. The island of St. Kitts, with its good soil and important location, became something everyone wanted. In 1690, with the British and French getting angry at each other, building started on a fort on top of Brimstone Hill. The British, knowing the hill was a good natural defense, wanted a fort that would control the surrounding waters. From this spot, they could see everything coming to the island, making it perfect for cannons and watching for enemy ships. The fort would scare off other countries and keep British settlers safe during attacks. Smart military engineers designed Brimstone Hill Fortress. They copied the newest European forts, adding strong walls and other defenses to protect against cannon attacks. The fort would be strong and lasting, a symbol of British power in the Caribbean. Building Brimstone Hill Fortress was a huge job, taking many years and needing lots of resources. While skilled workers and engineers planned and built, enslaved Africans did the hard work. Thousands of men, women, and children were brought to St. Kitts and forced to work under the hot Caribbean sun. The work was very hard and dangerous. Enslaved Africans dug huge stones from the hills, pulling them up the steep Brimstone Hill. They mixed cement, laid bricks, and built walls, all while being watched by guards. Many died from being tired, sick, or from accidents. We can't measure the suffering at Brimstone Hill Fortress. The blood, sweat, and tears of enslaved Africans are part of the fort. Their story is a sad reminder of how cruel the slave trade was and how it still affects the Caribbean. Brimstone Hill Fortress, once finished, was as strong as everyone thought. The 1700s were full of fighting in the Caribbean, as European countries fought for control of trade routes and colonies. St. Kitts, caught in the middle, became a battlefield between the British and French. Brimstone Hill, high up and strong, was very important in these fights. The fort survived many attacks, its cannons firing back as enemy ships tried to block the island or land soldiers. The loud cannons could be heard across the Caribbean, showing how fierce the fighting was. One of the most famous battles at Brimstone Hill was in 1782, when French and Spanish forces attacked the island. The fort, led by General Sir Samuel Hood, fought against a much bigger army for over a month. Even though they lost in the end, the British earned respect from their enemies and made Brimstone Hill famous as a very strong fort. The 1800s brought big changes to the Caribbean. The sugar business slowed down and slavery ended in British colonies in 1834. This changed the area's economy and society. Brimstone Hill Fortress, once a symbol of British power, became less important. By the middle of the 1800s, fewer British soldiers were at Brimstone Hill. The once great fort, no longer needed to defend St. Kitts, started to fall apart. Plants started growing on the walls, and the once busy areas became quiet. Even though it was falling apart, Brimstone Hill Fortress was still an important symbol of the island's history. Locals still visited, sharing stories of the fort's past and admiring its strong design. The fort, though not as grand as before, was still interesting. As the 1900s began, Brimstone Hill Fortress stood silently, its walls crumbling from time and neglect. Nature and lack of care had damaged it. The fort, once a symbol of empire, became a romantic ruin, its history becoming a legend. But even in its ruined state, Brimstone Hill Fortress was still majestic. High above the Caribbean Sea, it still captured people's imagination. The fort, though a shadow of its former self, was still interesting, attracting visitors who wanted to explore its crumbling walls and imagine its glorious past. Local historians and people who wanted to save old buildings started to say it should be protected and fixed. They knew the fort wasn't just a pile of rocks, but a connection to the island's rich and sometimes troubled past. In the late 1900s, people started working to save and rebuild Brimstone Hill Fortress. Local communities, knowing how important it was historically and culturally, helped. International groups like UNESCO also helped, giving expert advice and money for the big project. Rebuilding Brimstone Hill Fortress was a slow, careful process. It needed lots of research, skilled work, and respect for the fort's history. Architects and engineers worked with archaeologists and historians, learning about the fort's past and making sure the rebuilding stayed true to the original design. Rebuilding Brimstone Hill Fortress wasn't just about fixing bricks and walls, it was about bringing history back to life. The project wanted to make a place where visitors could learn about the past and experience it. By carefully saving and explaining things, Brimstone Hill Fortress would again show the island's rich and complex history. In 1999, Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means it's very important to the whole world. This showed how important the fort is as a great example of military design, a reminder of European colonialism in the Caribbean, and a sad reminder of the slave trade. Today, Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park is a symbol of national pride for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The fort, once a place of fighting and hardship, is now a place for learning, thinking, and making peace. Visitors from all over the world come to explore its walls, enjoy the amazing views, and learn about the island's interesting history. Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park is more than just a tourist spot. It's a living museum, a place where the past and present meet. It's a place where visitors can learn about the island's colonial past, the fights for freedom, and the lasting effects of slavery. The fort reminds us to protect our history and learn from past mistakes. Visiting Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park is like traveling through time. As you drive up the winding road, the fort slowly appears, its big walls and powerful presence amazing you. Inside the park, you can explore at your own speed, finding hidden spots and imagining the lives of the people who lived and worked there. Start at the Citadel, the highest part of the fort. From there, you can see amazing views of the Caribbean Sea, the island of Nevis, and the green hills of St. Kitts. As you look out, imagine the British soldiers who once watched for enemy ships. Next, walk through the well-preserved ruins, like the Prince of Wales Bastion, the artillery officers' quarters, and the Orelon Battery. As you explore, look at the design, the clever defenses, and how big it is. Imagine the enslaved Africans who worked hard there, their suffering a part of the fort forever. Don't leave Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park without visiting the museum. There you'll find interesting artifacts, maps, and exhibits that tell the story of the fort and the island's history. Learn about the first people who lived on St. Kitts, the arrival of the Europeans, the cruel system of slavery, and the fight for independence.